Hi, and welcome to the Goddess Way interview series, where we're learning how to tap into our feminine powers to create a life of wealth, beauty, and pleasure. And today I have the great pleasure of being with Katie Pelkey. She is a women's life coach, and it's her purpose to awaken and explore the power of the divine feminine. So how perfect. And before we dive in, I'd like to say a prayer and just center and ground the energies for us. Infinite Spirit, Goddess presence, please flood this call with grace, with beauty, with love, with light, with enlightenment, with an opening that we may all be blessed with in our consciousness. May we embody the divine feminine with ease and grace, this or something even better for the highest good of all concerned. Okay, so welcome, Katie.
Thank you. It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. So I know that you just came back from a really exciting retreat all about the divine feminine. So how perfect our timing. And
yes.
I know one thing that you did on your retreat was work with the energies of the goddess archetypes. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So on this retreat, literally the name was Awaken the Divine Feminine.
Perfect.
It was so incredible. And this goddess archetype energy experience, it actually kind of came to me. It was one of those things that happened right before we had a workshop planned and just kind of came through me and ended up being probably the most pivotal experience for myself to facilitate and watch. Because what we were doing was really focusing on all the traits of the divine feminine. And there's so many, and I'm sure you've uncovered this too, there's so many traits and gifts of the feminine that I just had no idea about. Like I was, when people said feminine, I was like, just like what? What about feminine? Like I'm more masculine, do the thing and get things done. And there's not much time for that femininity. And it's like how wrong I was.
Yeah.
Like mind blown, honestly, these past few years of diving into it. And all these archetypes, like they are our greatest gifts. So in this experience, it was all about what are these archetypes? What do they encompass? And what ones on an individual level is everyone connected to or disconnected to? Because I found the ones that we repress, the ones that really were, I'm doing that like, oh, I'm not feminine, I don't know. It's our greatest gift. It always becomes our greatest gift. That at one point it didn't feel safe, right? This world didn't feel fitting for it. And so we shut it down. But it's this part of our essential nature, and we're cut off from our own life force. We're cut off from that one trait or that one way of being that actually leads to fulfillment, and that leads to potential, and leads to, I think of before I was in this world, that nagging feeling of there must be something more. It's like the repressed archetype is usually that something more.
Yeah. Can you give an example of like, what is a repressed archetype for you?
Yeah. So I find I've narrowed it down to 13 archetypes. So just for example, it's like the priestess, the warrior, the sensual goddess, the nymph. And I got it down to 13, and it still feels like that sweet spot of like, okay, like these are the ones. And my most repressed, I will say, has shifted over the years. But at one point, I think my most repressed archetype, it was really sneaky because it was this idea of the sensual goddess. It was idea of sexuality. But why it was kind of strange for me is I've actually always been like very much, I love sexuality. I love talking about sex. Right. You and I were connecting before. It's just like I could talk about it. And I've always been that way. However, for a long time, sex to me, the intention behind it wasn't fully understood. Like, didn't really realize what sex was to me, or why I enjoyed it so much, or why it was actually this huge life force, this Shakti, this power for me.
Right.
Being misused. It was being completely misused.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was connected to the sensual goddess, but the more I dove in, it's like, no, it was actually being like really misfired, or I call it the shadow side, if you will, the shadow side of the sensual goddess, where it was just sexual leakage everywhere, more or less.
Oh, okay. I'm really intrigued by that, like the sexual leakage as opposed to really harnessing your Shakti and your feminine power. So what was the shift like in there to go from leaking to like power?
Totally. I mean, full transparency, the shift looked like I realized I was getting out of alignment in life. Like I was doing all the spiritual work, but the one place where I still got caught up was sex. The one place where I was still giving up my power to maybe even individuals where it's like, it wasn't totally supporting me, was in sex. And so I went into this place of, okay, I'll just not have sex for a month, and I'll just be really, I guess, in the inquiry of what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
During this experience, I kind of went to the other end where I repressed it. And it felt so bad. And so it's like, what is the sweet spot? And in this work, I started doing a lot more studying of Tantra and of self-touch, and then what sexuality is for women. And I came to this understanding that it is life force. It is our power. And sexuality. Yeah. And so it became this practice of like, how do I embody sensuality or sexuality in a way that's for me? Mm-hmm. It's not for others. Like, how do I dress up, or how do I move in a way, or how do I dance, or how do I have a self-care practice that is self-touch, that is self-love, that's actually just for me? Mm-hmm. And what does that do for me? And it just brought this radiance. It brought this vibrance back into my life. And all of a sudden, like, it wasn't being misused anymore. Right. Sweet spot of like, okay, I can still love sex. I can still talk about it. But now I have this understanding of what it really is for me. Right.
And it feels like a purity in the sexuality of like, you know, where it's not kind of going sideways in any way. It's just in it's like pure potency.
Yeah, totally. It was like not diluted anymore. Yeah. So that was a very cool experience. And then it was so sacred. It's like, well, I'm not just going to give this up to anyone. Right. No, it doesn't make sense anymore. But it doesn't mean I can't have it in every moment. And like, I'll even work with clients where we'll do experiences of like, how do you bring sexuality into the worst in a safe way? Like, it's boundaries, but it's for you. How do you bring it into places where maybe it's being too repressed, right? But if it's life force, if this is power, like, where in your life can you actually kind of bring it in to get a little bit more energy, to get a little bit more vibrance, radiance, and fun? Like,
totally. Yeah, it like totally brings the energy up and infuses you with life force. And I feel like that's one of our magnetic qualities as women. And have you noticed like how that maybe can attract more abundance into your life?
100%. 100%. I would say for me specifically, one of my practices at one point, and something I would extend into like anyone that wants to play with more sexuality or something they feel disconnected from, was I started dancing to music every morning, like really sexual music. So I was allowing myself to move, like to really move. And like lately I've been getting the belly dancing and just like, what else can I explore? Yeah. And when I start off on that high frequency of a day where I'm feeling not only blissed out, but like it's a tangible emotion of sexuality. And I feel like this radiance that's happening, everything is just a little bit brighter. And when I work with my clients, it's like abundance in so many forms in my interactions. There's so many currencies happening. Right? Abundance in the interactions I have with random people. There's abundance in the opportunities that come into me. Because part of the gift of the divine feminine is this receptivity. Like, what am I going to attract and bring in? Yeah. And so as I embody more like sexual movement and states of being, that receptive quality starts to come in. And that's like, as we go into the ones that are repressed, it's like we open ourselves up to all the gifts of her.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that some women feel very repressed in the sexual sense. And then I've noticed there's kind of a disconnect where some women will not allow themselves beauty and luxury and kind of, you know, are in this like, it's got to be like, you know, like work for it and hard, and
Yes.
encountered that as well.
Absolutely. I find too, and even not to make too much of a blanket statement, but when I've even looked at some of the in feminism, if you will, it goes to the masculine side of like, we burn what it is to be woman.
Right.
It's like, no. Like, even it's like, can we bring in everything in this holistic way? Because I believe, right, every part of the feminine is not by accident. So yes, beauty, luxury, taking care of ourselves, liking what we like. I put this into the archetype more of like the lover, where it's like romantic. It's like, we like nice things. Like, I always have fur everywhere. And
I love that.
touch and nice perfume or clothes that feel really good and dressing up for yourself. It is such a powerful ritual to treat yourself in such a way that is so majestic and beautiful. And then that's what you put out into the universe. And that's what you get back in. It's like, if you're willing to take care of yourself and really dress up for self and feel beautiful and see luxury and abundance and allow yourself to have it, you're just saying, okay, I'm worthy. I'm totally worthy. And we know the universe just responds to that. Right?
Yeah. I feel an opening just talking about it. It's like, yes, like that is part of the feminine, and why not embrace it? And why not like really claim that for yourself? Yeah.
Repression anywhere is stagnation. I believe in this universe, we can't actually repress anything. It's just putting it to the side, like what resists persists. And then it becomes like, literally, disease happens from stagnation. And so the feminine, again, it's all about fluidity. Can we embody and be with everything? And so if you have desires for nice things, can you be with that? And just check your intention. Like, why do you want it? And find a pure one that feels like soul true. I think life is very much okay with nice things.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your experience working with the archetypes, do we all have them all within us? Like, kind of like how we have the 5 elements, but I may be fiery, but you know, we have them all, kind of thing. Yeah.
That's my true belief. And everyone does it in their own style. I think that's what's really cool. It's the archetypes are these beautiful ideas, and we get a lot of imagery from it and traits. And then as I do it with different women, it's like, but they bring their own style to it. So someone else's sensual goddess might look very different than my own. But it's the same, I would say, quality and almost just like vibrancy. But it comes from a different style, probably. But that's what's cool about the most repressed. It's definitely in you. I think that's the most part. It's like, no, we have access to all of these. All of these.
It's so exciting. Yeah. And yeah. And how can sometimes it can be like an idea, you know, like how can we really start embodying the divine feminine more in our lives?
So the first part for me, and what I've been sharing with a lot of my clients, is we have to start with debunking our limiting beliefs about what the divine is, first of all, right? So what beliefs do we have around femininity? What's the relationship with our mother? What is a relationship we have towards feminine attributes like softness, like gentleness, or like boldness and sexuality? Where are we limiting ourselves because of society's beliefs, because what we've been told, or whatever fear is basically implanted into our brain? It's like, what is not true? So we have to get really curious. And then there's this opening of like, okay, what is the divine feminine actually, right? And this is a resource I'll be giving to everyone listening.
Awesome.
Of a description of like, what are these archetypes? So you can discover your most repressed archetype. And you can get an idea of like all these traits. Because for me, it was just like, what? I couldn't believe all the traits that come with femininity, and then it made so much sense. I'm like, oh, like this is unreal.
Yeah.
Much more appreciation for being a woman.
Right. It's like we have we have so much within us. And I love this concept of like, whatever is not used is repressed. So it is like gold, like literally like alchemy sitting there waiting for us.
Yes. And that's exactly, I use this process of transmutation of like, we get our medicine from the poison. Mm-hmm. So that fear, that part of you that's so disconnected from one of those archetypes, like if it is that sensual goddess, it's so potent, you're going to have a response or a reaction. Mm-hmm. So if you take on this resource that I'm giving out where it goes through each archetype through like a meditation, so you can envision it and see it, you're going to have a response to one. There's going to be one that's like, oh, I don't want to be that. Like, or something like that. Like,
yeah.
That's your poison that we're going to turn into poison. Like, that's the gold. That's what we're going to turn into probably your greatest source of fuel or life force, or that hidden gift that's like, oh shit, like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the next part, is the discovery. Mm-hmm. It's like the inquiry, then the discovery of like, okay, what is the divine feminine and what one do I feel most repelled to do? And can I do the work to come back into that, into embodying it? Because the next part is then, what would it be like to connect with this sensual goddess, with the lover, with the protector, with the warrior, with the wild woman? Like, what would that feel like? Mm-hmm. And like, I have no idea, because I've never been this person, or I haven't been this since I was 4 years old and that thing happened where it felt unsafe. And then we have to be, really doing R&D, research and development. So who embodies this? Like, what famous person or what character in a book or what friend do I know that really knows how to be the wild woman? And do I call her up and ask, like, how do I do this? Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what do you get into? And I actually encourage everyone to try it for a whole day. Like, if you innately knew, because it's within you, what would it be like to be the wild woman or the sensual goddess for an entire day? Can you try that on? And then it'll flow a little bit easier as you start to kind of brainstorm and then embody it, experience it.
I love that. And also there's something about what you're saying that's really about like divine sisterhood, because it's like seeing the goddess in other women and acknowledging that, and even asking for help. Like, hey, how did you tap into that?
Absolutely. Yes. Another gift of the divine feminine is we know how to be with each other. And I think that's something that's shifting to how to be in that high frequency together, where we call each other forth to our greatest self, versus the judgment or comparison or any of the other low frequencies that aren't true to who we really are. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So absolutely reach out.
Yeah. And there's something about you that makes me feel like you have this connection or channel with the ecstatic in the feminine. And I was wondering if you had anything to share about that.
Well, it's actually one of those, like, so cool to hear, because I think for a long time I was that was my most repressed, this ecstatic, nymph-like, like excited, fluid, just go with things. At one point in my life that didn't feel safe anymore. And it's been part of my work to be in this place of creativity and bliss and really allowing ourselves to get on these high frequencies, because we all know what it's like, or at least speak from experience. I know what it's like to be super low frequency, to be depressed, to feel alone, to feel isolated, to feel just like something's missing. And in this work of tapping into these archetypes, of exploring things I haven't really touched before, this ecstatic brilliance has just like penetrated my life. And it's a kind of interesting, I use the word penetrated, that's almost the masculine, but I've also received it too.
Yeah.
I've received this ability to just like dance with what is.
Yeah.
All the time. It's super blissful and like life, and absolutely ecstatic.
Awesome. And I actually pulled a goddess card for you, and who came through was Saraswati with the arts. And she said, express yourself through creative activities. So how perfect that that's what came through.
Yeah. It was through coming into that nymph/muse of like, can I be creative once again? That was probably one of the most empowering like segments of my life. Because even though I love the arts, I love music, and I've literally surrounded myself with people that do that, I never felt a cling to it for a long time. And then when I went into this work and allowed myself to be the creative once again, so much has just like come into being, and it's very natural again. Yeah.
Awesome.
So happy that showed up.
Yeah. And how can women, can you share a tool that women can use to start to receive more or connect with their own inner goddess?
Yes. A tool that I've used that's been very potent, I always really encourage women to come back to their intuition, to start with their intuition, and to really listen to the higher self, the part of them that's without fear, the part of them that knows that they are a goddess. And whether it's just that 5 minutes in the morning or in the evening, or when you get just a moment to be with your body, it's always nice to bring in movement and fluidity. I always like to just move my hips or spine and just kind of connect with my heart and ask myself, like, what is true? Who am I really right now? Or what am I repressing? And it's through just these open-ended questions that an answer does come. Or intuition got to come through. And that to me is always the higher self. That wisdom comes through, and listen and act. Listen and act. Building intuition, listening to her, and forming this relationship is, if you had nothing else, if you didn't take on these free resources or listen to anything else, like, this would still take you there and follow your bliss. 100% follow. Turns you on, lights you up. Like, that is not by mistake, ever.
I love that. And I think that once we do listen to our intuition, access that, it's like, when we take action, it's like trust. You know, you're building trust with your intuition. It's like your intuition listens. It's like, oh, she did listen. Okay, I'm gonna, bless her with more information. So it's pretty cool feedback loop. Yeah. And
it's a beautiful place to come by. Instead of, we act so much from fear. We act so much from repetitive behavior. But when we act from a higher place, it's a higher outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And I know that you are going to be sharing a free gift. So would you like to tell us more about that?
Totally. So I decided to do 2 different things, because the creative side is, I got so excited and I added one more thing.
Awesome.
And the first one is a meditation that will all be about harnessing sexual energy. And my intention with that is for that new definition, that new understanding of what it really is, to be clear. So we can rewire our brains about it, and then an experience where you can actually breathe it in, feel it, and see how it impacts your day. I mean, it'll be a really cool experience. We did this on the retreat, and people were so lit up after. It was unreal.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. So you can everyone out there can get out their sexual energy and use it for themselves, harness it for themselves.
Right.
And the next one is the archetype, the repressed archetype experience, where I will be walking you through a guided meditation, because I just find the mind works better that way. All the different archetypes, and you can decide, okay, what one do I feel connected to? What one do I feel disconnected to? And I'll lead you through to the end where you have this experiment in place to connect with the repressed part of yourself. See what gifts come from that. So it should be a pretty interesting and very revealing experience for anyone that's willing to unearth their hidden powers and gifts.
What a beautiful gift. I'm really excited to, check that out and get to know. Get to know what I'm repressing and what's going on under the surface. Yeah, definitely.
And just one thing, because I think it's so important, the one we repress, just to remember, like, it's already within you. It's okay. Sometimes we get a little, at least I get, like, if I'm not doing it, I'm like, oh, I haven't been creative for 20-something years. What am I doing?
Like, damn.
Right? And it's like, no, divine timing. Maybe it needed a time to build that potency. So now it's ready to be revealed. Nothing comes up unless it is ready to be revealed. So now when it does, it'll be with that impact and massiveness that the world is needing. So it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good, whatever. And it's in you.
Yeah. And it's so kind of perfect to the times. Like, you know, there's such a sense of women will not be repressed anymore and standing up. And it's like, it's just naturally, our internal evolution is, you know, progressing naturally with the world events.
Yes. And it's so needed. And that's why I'm thankful for you for doing this work, because I mean, yes, I really believe this is what the world needs. It's what we all need. And it's like, how can we embody the divine feminine with feminine traits? Because there's so much power that I still think hasn't been revealed yet. And so it's like, let's play with this magic that we once knew.
Totally. And you and I were discussing how, like, as women, we're literally magic creators, like, all the time. And it's like, you know, like, we may be aware of, like, you know, 5% of our resources or something like that. And it's like, it's kind of crazy how limitless our potential is.
Yes. Yeah. Like that cup overflow it. Like, it's just like, there's so much more. And that's ecstatic to me. That's just like, this is just the tipping point. And who knows what will come. Yeah. And just like start, because it's incredible. It's incredible. I don't know about you, but it's like every day gets a little bit richer. Every day gets a little bit more like, what is this life I'm living now from doing this work? And it's endless.
Yeah. For me, I feel like colors are more vibrant and connections are deeper, and, like, you know, manifesting abilities get stronger. Do you want to share anything about manifestation or how women can connect to that in a different way?
100%. So I guess the big thing for manifestation is, in the feminine, we know that we are just receptive, abundant creatures, that everything we'll ever need is always available to us, and it will come in perfect timing. So there's this idea of just divine timing and patience. Like, everything's happening in its own perfection. And from feminine eyes, I'm always looking around and seeing, like, there is so much abundance just in each room. If I go into nature, there's so much abundance everywhere. And this is where, for a manifesting practice, you can use sexuality. And so something I do implement, and I love teaching people, is whether it's through self-touch or just getting super aroused or dancing in a way that just turns you on or doing what lights you up. Again, you're going onto that high frequency. Through law of attraction, right? Through manifesting, it's like, be on the frequency that you want your reality to be. Right? So if you're on this high vibe, ecstatic, blissed out, maybe even orgasmic state, tapping into something very high, it's very potent. So notice your thoughts around it. Even if you are doing some type of self-touch or dancing, whatever feels good, you can start to even visualize, right? What is it that you want to bring in? It becomes this very intentional ritual that, if you haven't tried it before, it's potent. It's very, very potent and fun. So it's one more element of the health of sexuality and touch and self-love. You can manifest.
Yeah. Amazing. And that felt really, like, juicy. Like, yeah, who doesn't want to be in that, like, high state and then attract in what you want? And we're all capable of that. We're all powerful. And I think even speaking that has an impact, you know, just like acknowledging that and claiming that as women is like, yeah, like that does shift our consciousness.
Absolutely. And repress nothing, because even when we get the contrast in manifesting, right, we'll still get the obstacles, we still get the challenges. But from a feminine perspective, there's no good, it's all holistic. So even in those endings or challenges, I always think of the goddess Kali. It's like, there has to be an ending. There, things need to die for something to be reborn. And there's something beautiful in that. And the feminine always sees that.
Yes.
Nothing's missing. There's perfection in this. This is also abundant, which is a really cool when there's no such thing as challenges or loss anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's so fluid. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us. I've had an amazing conversation with you, and I'm sure that all of our guests will want to keep in touch with you. I'm sure they'll enjoy your free gift. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mital. This is incredible. Thank you for doing this work.
Oh, of course. It's my really deep calling and pleasure. So, okay, for all our listeners, we'll see you next time. Bye.